May 6, 2025, the Supreme Court dismissed an injunction sought by Member of Parliament for Ota for Vincent Ekow Assafuah against commencement of proceedings to hear 3 petitions to remove Justice Gertrude Saki Tokonu. The 5-member panel in a 3-2 majority decision dismissed the injunction brought by the Ota for MP. Now, tonight the Supreme Court has published the full reasoning by both the majority and the dissenting justices in an 81-page document. My producer, Dennis Wedam, has been studying this document, and he'll show us some key portions. Counsel, what do we know?
Well, so let's start off by going back to see the judges who sat on this particular case and how the voting went, for which reason that petition was dismissed. So those judges on the top, you would recall that there was an original panel, but for some reason that panel had to be reconstituted because we got the understanding that one of the panel members was appointed to be on that committee that was looking into petitions seeking the removal of the Chief Justice. So then a new panel was reconstituted. In there, you had the acting Chief Justice by then, Justice Paul Bafuboni. You have Justice Henrietta Mensah Bonsu, Justice Yoni Kolendi, Justice Amadou Tanko, and Justice Enejizeu. So when you look closely at those at the bottom and those with the green ticks, so Justice Bafuboni, Justice Yoni Kolendi, and Justice Amadou Tanko were those in the majority. So it was by their decision that that particular injunction was dismissed. The remaining 2, Justice Henrietta Mensah Bonsu and then Justice Enejizeu, for them, they dissented. And we're going to go straight into it. A lot of things have been said, but for tonight, we'll just focus on what the court itself said was the crux of the application, because they had to look into it to see if indeed it met the threshold for that injunction application to be granted. Right. But if you recall, the crux of Vincent's case was that when the petitions were presented to the president started the process of consultation with the Council of State without giving notice to the affected Chief Justice. Right. For that reason, his view was that the process was unconstitutional, and then based on that, he sought the interlocutory injunction. Now, this is how the majority looked at the issue, looking at the documents that were attached and analyzing same. And they make reference to one of the key documents that were in there. They labeled it Exhibit B, but this will be a document, a letter that was written to the Chief Justice to inform her about the petitions and also to receive her comments to continue with the process. Now, in that document, they say it was dated 28th of March, that in the first paragraph of this letter, the President informs the Chief Justice of his receipt of the petitions, and then also in paragraph 2 of that exhibit, they actually go ahead to quote exactly what the letter says. That following receipt of these petitions on the 24th of March 2025, His Excellency wrote to the Chairman of the Council of State, forwarding the petitions and informing the Council of State, in accordance with the consultation process required under Article 1466, he intends, as an initial step, to send the petitions to you, the Chief Justice, for your preliminary comments on this. Now, the interpretation of the majority in this matter is that by this letter, the President was informing the Chief Justice and also indicating to the Chief Justice that the petitions had been forwarded to the Council of State. Also asking the Council of State that they had forwarded the petitions to the Chief Justice. Mind you, in that letter, they did indicate that they were asking to get the green light from the Council of State for some number of days to be given to the Chief Justice. Right. It is the interpretation of the majority in this particular matter, or the understanding, that this meant that that opportunity was given to her. And if you go, they actually make emphasis on certain keywords when they highlight words like initial, and that's so when you read the paragraph 19, it says that exhibit, that letter we just read, actually assures the Chief Justice that her comments and responses to the petitions will be sought before the prima facie determination is made. Right. So what they are saying is that by virtue of that letter, they did what Vincent said they did not do.
Indeed.
And that's Vincent basing his argument on the fact that there was a communication from the presidency to the effect that some petitions had been received and that they were forwarded to the Council of State was indeed not the beginning of the process itself, for which reason he would argue that the process had started without notice to the Chief Justice.
Right.
So based on this, since the entire case was basically built on this, and for an injunction to be granted, the court needs to see if there's an issue to be tried, a serious one at that. The court came to the conclusion that
he did not meet
that threshold. So I think, for emphasis, yes, that it clearly communicates to the Chief Justice that her comments and responses were the first matter to be considered before the President and the Council of State to evaluate the petitions to determine whether the petitions had met the prima facie threshold. For this reason, it is also inaccurate that the President initiated consultations with the Council of State to determine a prima facie case without first notifying the Chief Justice of the petitions. So after having done the analysis, this is the conclusion that they reached on that score.
Right, but the dissenting voices veer off this slightly.
Yes, for the dissenting voices, their argument is that no, the first time the Chief Justice got to hear about the petitions was when the presidency issued a statement to announce that the President had received petitions and had forwarded same to the Council of State. They are of the opinion that by that announcement, it had already triggered conversation in the media, and that the Chief Justice was subjected to public trial, which in their view even clouded or had the potential of clouding the judgment of whoever was supposed to look into the process.
Right.
For them, they thought the right process was for her to have been in the know even before the public got to know, especially so when it was the Chief Justice who was to respond to those matters.
Very well, Dennis. Thank you for bringing us those key portions. Let's spend the last few minutes with legal practitioner Christian Malmhesi. Thank you so much, Christian, for your time here on Ghana Tonight. But listen, you have seen this report. What's your reaction to it?
Good evening and good evening to your viewers alike for having me here. If you could run the question in respect of the context.
Indeed, I'm asking what your reaction is to the full reasoning we are now seeing for the decision taken earlier this month.
In respect of the decision by the Supreme Court as given out now?
Absolutely.
Yes, I mean, it just came out and it's just a mix. It's just a mix of digestion of it, and we are all getting the conclusions of it. So to make scholarly deductions out of it.
I see. I mean, based on what you have read so far, just two things I want you to analyze for me, and then we can call it a night. The first one being whether or not the majority's decision after facts was enough to dismiss the injunction. The other one being whether or not we could pick any new information on for future purposes from the dissenting voices in this ruling.
Yes, I mean, basically, I cannot pretend as though I have read everything and be as pious as I could be as a person, but basically, I have just been cherry picking in what I just come off, because it's quite of a reading, and having been convoluted with the business of the day as well. But yes, I mean, having cited the decision by Henry Mensah Bonsu, it is one that she indicates a position which I find as pioneering judicial independence and not necessarily contracting or basing it on the fact that we need to allow the external forces, whether from general public or from the executive, to crowd out what the position should be when it comes to judicial independence. She sought out to uphold the flag of judicial independence and how the basis of prima facie evidence came about in respect of the fact that because, before the Chief Justice could be apprised with it, it was quite in the public domain. And even before the decision about that was made, it meant that the prima facie decision punditry from the general public.
Indeed, Christian, I'd love to continue this conversation.
The decision of
but unfortunately, I am out of time, and so we'll leave it here for now. Thank you so much. Christian Hesse is a legal practitioner. We've been looking at the full reason behind the Supreme Court's decision to throw out an interlocutory injunction application against the processes against the now suspended Chief Justice. It will bring us to a close of tonight's